Hey guys, what's up? It's another AP podcast, and today I'm with my co-host Archer and Patrick once again coming on. And today we're going to be talking about the AFC South a little bit. It's an interesting division. We all live in Tennessee, so this is probably the closest one to home. And then Patrick's linked to Indianapolis, so it's kind of a big division.
Big
I
Colts
guess
fan.
kind of for us um, on the AP podcast. So we're going to talk about it a little bit today. And we're just going to go through some of these teams in their off seasons. And so I guess we're just going to go ahead and go by the record these teams had last year. And so we're going to start with the Texans, who won the division.
All
So,
right, yeah,
Archer, if you feel like going first, kind of talk about
sure.
how you feel like.
I think if we want to talk about free agency and/or the offseason, that the DeAndre Hopkins fiasco is probably the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien, I really don't think that was a good move. I don't think anybody does. Letting your best receiver walk away like that, especially I just feel bad for Deshaun at this point. DeAndre also kind of seemed like a confident team leader, and they just flung him to the side. They got David Johnson out of it, who's deteriorating faster than anybody. I mean, it's just kind of sad to see because they were set up for a while, just for the long run, and then Bill O'Brien came in and got rid of probably their best offensive player other than Deshaun Watson. That has to impact the team, and it's going to be a weird season for them. I don't know. I don't really know what to think about it, to be honest. Like, how much is that going to impact their record at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Is the question.
Patrick, what are you thinking?
Well, I kind of had the same deal with Archer with the D-Hop trade being possibly one of the most controversial trades for any fan of the Texans organization in history. But to be fair, they got David Johnson, who is deteriorating. He's had a pretty off year since the 2016 season, I think.
Yeah, when he popped off.
When he absolutely popped off. But they signed Brandon Cooks, who has been regressing since he played for the Saints. They signed Randall Cobb as well. So I'm not sure if those two players can replace the caliber level that D-Hop played with. And their upcoming season is incredibly difficult because the AFC South has to play the Ravens, Pittsburgh, Browns division, which is going to be difficult for everyone in there in itself. So their schedule is very difficult, and I think the AFC South is probably going to be one of the closest divisions to end the season with. But I think the Texans offseason has not been as strong as it could have been. But I don't think the worst in the AFC South, because we'll get to the Jags. But
Yeah, I don't like the
sure.
Texans off season. They got rid of DeAndre Hopkins and essentially replaced him with Brandon Cooks for similar contracts. I know DeAndre Hopkins was a little bit more, but not by much. And then David Johnson and Duke Johnson, I don't know if I like that pairing in the backfield really. They're both kind of pass first, like receiving backs. They don't really have.
Don't they still have Deontay Foreman? They do have. He's a bit of a power
They
guy.
have Dante Foreman, but he's been injured.
they lost
He
Carlos
had torn
Hyde and
Achilles.
Lamar Miller.
And it's hard to come back from a torn Achilles, so he's still kind of a question mark. But I don't know if I like the composition of their team. And essentially, with DeAndre Hopkins leaving, he only missed 8 snaps since Deshaun Watson was on the team. So he was essentially off the field for 8 plays when Deshaun Watson was playing. And now they have guys like Will Fuller, like
Brandon Cooks
all the time, and Brandon Cooks,
Kenny Stills.
They're all
They also
prone.
they have Kiki Kuti, who when I watched him, he looked pretty good.
He was good when
but his injury problems are they're honestly pretty banged up.
The Texans basically just traded away their only consistent piece outside of Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm.
And DeAndre drew the double team too. So
injuries can really derail their season, which is why I don't know if they're going to be able to sustain, I guess, kind of their success if injuries kind of hit them hard. But I really do like Deshaun Watson. He can create really well. But I do like how they kind of prioritized Laramie Tunsil, I guess, and made sure that he was going to get paid in the future.
Yeah.
I guess really just by showing that even when they traded DeAndre Hopkins, they were committing to Laramie Tunsil. I don't necessarily agree with Laramie Tunsil paying him instead of DeAndre Hopkins, but that's the precedent they set, and they do need to help.
they need to help up front for sure.
But one other thing I think went kind of under the radar is they let go of Jonathan Joseph, who I feel like is a staple of the Texans organization. I feel like every
Is
time,
the only notable secondary
yeah,
player they've
exactly.
like ever
Well,
had.
Tyrann Mathieu, but I feel like every single
He's there
time.
for a season.
Well, I'm just saying he was there for a season, but like he was still a notable guy. But like I feel like every time I watch the Texans, Jonathan Joseph is like getting a pick or making a tackle. And letting him go is going to hurt their secondary. I don't think they have the best secondary in the world, but I don't know. And
No, they do not.
they did pick a cornerback in the draft.
How far up?
I'm not sure which pick, but they went. I'm pretty sure in this order is defensive tackle, linebacker, and then cornerback.
All right, so not a first rounder.
No.
No.
I don't know. It's a weird team. I think they're really injury prone, and if they can stay healthy, they have a shot to make a decent run in the playoffs. I don't think it's Super Bowl caliber team.
I would
but,
also like.
I'd be interested to see how they play this season.
I'd also like to say that the Texans their first 4 games are at the Chiefs, the Ravens, at the Steelers, and Vikings. So they start the season with an absolute powerhouse of teams that they have to play against. So that's also a factor that would contribute to.
I feel like they can get the Steelers.
I think they will start either 1-3 or 0-4 at the beginning of the season.
That's bold.
Dang, I mean, that's what happened to the Titans, kind of.
That's true.
All right.
And so speaking of, I guess now we can kind of move down to the Titans. They actually did the best in the playoffs this last year, but of course, we're 9-7 for the 5th consecutive year. So I think it's fair to say what the record.
Hey, it worked. AFC Championship, whatever. I don't care if it's 9-7. Maybe that's a good luck charm.
So Archie, you want to talk about him for a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I think that in general, the Titans have done incredible. Just from kind of like putting together that run, they did it quietly too for a little bit. Like at the end of the season, they really had to fight for their spot in the playoffs, and they earned it. And then they dominated. Derrick Henry has been a force. Ryan Tannehill played great, like really probably the best football of his career. Everything about the Titans right now is on the up. I feel like Jack Conklin isn't as big of a loss as some people think.
I agree.
I think that Jack Conklin had a year or two that were really good, but he hasn't been as good as that first rookie year where he was NFL. What was he, All-Pro?
He was first
team, yeah. Like since then, he's kind of been down. Like he's been on a downward curve. He hasn't really been getting better. So I don't mind losing him, especially we would have had to pay him a ton, and we can't really afford that right now. The only problem for me is no edge rusher. If we get Jadeveon, that's obviously solved, but that's still up in the air. So if the Titans can get an edge rusher, I think they're the clear-cut best team in the AFC South.
I think they might have attempted to kind of get one. I don't know if Vic Beasley is like that great edge rusher that they wanted, but they did. Vic Beasley did lead the league in sacks one year.
They lost Wesley Woodyard too, right?
Yeah,
they lost
I like
Jarrell Casey
a lot. No, the linebackers are great in Tennessee.
Yeah, that's one of my notes. I said they have a great linebacking core.
The linebackers are great. They're all young.
Jayon Brown I really think highly of Jayon Brown.
I do too.
His football IQ, his coverage is great. Every time you watch him play, if he's on the sideline, you can kind of tell the other team is kind of aiming for that area of the field. I mean, Jayon Brown
too is great.
I feel like he's more of a rusher though. Yeah,
he's
still a great linebacker. Just their linebacking core in general.
They drafted Kristen Fulton as well in the second round, who's a very, very good corner for them. So,
yeah, I mean everything for the Titans is on the up and up. Mike Vrabel, I love. I think he's a great personality, and the biggest part about that too is the players love him. It's not just the fans, and like he's respected by the players. I mean, he went on Taylor Lewan's podcast. Like he does a lot of stuff that's kind of just like they're little, but in the big picture, they can mean a lot to these players. And I think that has a lot to do with the success as well.
Yeah. Patrick, do you want to talk about him a little bit?
Yeah. So I think they had some pretty good cuts in the offseason. They cut Delaney Walker, Dion Lewis, Ryan Suckup, Cameron Wake. I think those were pretty solid but most of those players were on the down and not really doing well for the team. I also saved them $18 million in monies. And also
it was largely from a money perspective too, cutting those guys.
And also, we're talking about the loss of Jack Conklin. I don't think that will be as like a huge effect for them because they signed Sam Bralialo. I think I cannot pronounce his name, but from the Broncos, I think, and also drafted a tackle in the first round from Georgia as well.
Big boy.
Can't remember his name.
He is
Isaiah
gigantic.
Isaiah
He
Wilson,
is
yeah.
massive.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll be a starter from day one.
Yeah, I think he'll be very. I think he'll be very. He is a big dude. But yeah, honestly, I think the Titans are going to be very tough to beat this year, especially with Vic Beasley also getting signed and all of that. But they, like I said, just like the Texans, the Titans also have a very rough schedule this year. But I don't know. Like based on my prediction, just like kind of jumping ahead here, I don't think they'll do any worse than 9-7, but I don't know if they'll do any better than 11-5. But I guess that's all room for discussion.
Yeah. So I guess just about the Titans really fast. You guys touched on the loss of Conklin. I don't think that was a big deal. I actually really like Dennis Kelly as the guy that was supposed to start the season off, where he left, and I kind of hope he still does, just because Isaiah Wilson kind of struggled pass blocking, is kind of what I was reading on his draft analysis. But I really like the Isaiah Wilson pick. I just would say I'd start Dennis Kelly for a little bit and then put him in. But I thought it was kind of a weird move for a team that should be in win now mode to get a guy that's not good. I understand he fits the Titans scheme, but he would fit it for the future better if he becomes a better pass blocker. I feel like they might have gotten a more polished lineman, I guess, instead of.
Well, I feel like
improve his pass.
I kind of feel like that they were also preparing for the run because I mean
I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that that's crucial for their playoff runs. But I feel like if they had gotten a tackle, like could start like day one and do well on both sides of passing and running, because this is like not a low pick. Like there are still guards and tackles out there that, I mean, are really good at both the pass and the run.
Oh.
I understand they want to go run heavy towards the end of the year, but they got to win the regular season games, and they can't run Derrick Henry into the ground weeks 1 through like 10, really. But that's also why I thought it was valuable. They picked up a running back in the 3rd round. But I still think they need to add to the D line a little bit. The secondary is getting better. I liked the Fulton pick. Malcolm Butler comes back. I think it's a good team, but I do think their one flaw could be the secondary, and I like Jeffrey Simmons a lot, but they still have a lot of cap space, and Jadeveon Clowney's still out there.
Yeah.
So I think if they get Clowney,
that changes everything.
Yeah, they could. I think they would more than likely win the division if they get Clowney. If not, I still think that them and the Texans would be vying for that spot, and maybe even the Colts. I think that it's going to be a really, really tight kind of division per usual. I feel like it's always one of those divisions that is kind of
highly contested.
Really contested.
Yeah, and then another player that I think this is the biggest loss for the Titans is Logan Ryan. So underrated. He really kind of carried the secondary, to be honest. Like he was incredible since we got him. Kevin Byard, obviously one of the best safeties in the league. Plus, Adoree Jackson improved so much this last season. I'm sorry, he did in the playoffs. He had some really big.
Well in the playoffs, he
had some really big plays. Like he had a ton of pass breakups. There was this one against the Ravens down on the right sideline of Marquise Brown. That was beautiful. Like he just smacked the ball out of there. It was perfect. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think Adoree, if he keeps improving like this, can be that guy for the Titans. If he keeps improving.
I would say Adoree, when he came in the NFL, was an athlete that didn't know how to play cornerback. And so if he can learn how to actually play the position.
Play cornerback,
really yeah,
he's good.
Incredible.
I love Adoree.
I feel like he just kind of he just used his talent really to get through college, and is slowly learning kind of how to become a corner.
And maybe keep him off the punt returning duties from now on.
Yeah. Oh my God, the amount of drop punts for fair catches that he shouldn't have.
It's so bad.
It's so bad. It's unbelievable. But yeah, I'm optimistic about the Titans. The only thing I will say is I really like their young receivers. But it would kind of be nice to see them get an established guy just to kind of lead Corey Davis, AJ Brown.
We didn't pick up Corey Davis' fifth year option.
He's still playing this year though, and I think it's a prove it year for him. And I really wish that there was kind of a guy to mentor him that's been through these contract years.
I got you.
That's a receiver. Just because I feel like Corey Davis was kind of unfairly the number one receiver for a while on the Titans, and he still kind of needed to develop. Like from day one, he was basically the only guy getting guarded because we had just.
He was the 5th overall pick. So I mean, I think Corey Davis has been a big disappointment. I really like him, but if we're really talking about his performance, he's not been what we were looking for at all. And I don't know what to think. I think honestly, it would be kind of smart to maybe look for a trade. I don't know. Maybe get a veteran guy who can play well. If we are looking to win now, we kind of need a little bit of veteran presence on that wide receiver core because there really isn't any. And I'd like to see something like that happen.
Yeah,
if I'm being
but
honest.
I am optimistic about the leadership on the Titans with Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I think it's all dependent on
last season
how Derrick Henry does this year because we still haven't seen a Tannehill without Derrick Henry. So, it's all.
He was really good with the Dolphins.
He was underrated
in the playoffs. And then he got injured before the playoffs. Like he's a good quarterback. He just had injuries.
It's true, but
and he had Adam Gase as his coach.
Yeah.
Piece of shit.
I also think AJ Brown will do very well this year.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if he pops off a little bit. I feel like
best receiver from that class. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we talked a lot about the Titans, but let's go ahead and move on to the Colts. I'm sure Patrick's excited about it.
Patrick's ready for this.
Yeah.
They're going to 11-5. They're gonna pop off, guys.
Okay, you know what, Archer? Thank you. Yeah. So, see, one thing I really like the Colts offseason this year. The one problem that I think I have with the Colts is our wide receivers are horrendous. Besides T.Y. Hilton,
y'all drafted
we got Michael Pittman
UNC.
Jr.
I think he's good. I watched him play like 2 games. He was pretty good.
Right. But I mean, I was talking about before that, like before the
draft
last year, like Darius Fountain was our number 2 option, and no one knows who that is. But getting Desmond Padman in the 6th round, who's a wide receiver from Washington State, I think that was possibly a very, very good 6th round steal. But also our cornerbacks, we're kind of going trade frenzy and release frenzy on this. Like we traded our 2nd string Quincy, or he was our like 2nd cornerback Quincy Wilson for a 6th round pick. We did get Xavier Rhodes, but I think he had one of the worst Pro Bowl elected seasons of all time.
In my notes, I literally have Xavier Rhodes equals trash.
Yeah, I don't like Xavier Rhodes.
Okay, I don't think he's trash. I just think that he does not deserve the recognition that he has.
He's just a big name.
The fact that people know Xavier Rhodes' name it's sad.
He had a couple really good seasons, but
I know, but
fell off dramatically the last 2 years.
And
2 years.
To be fair, we also drafted Isaiah Rodgers, and we signed TJ Carey and Travis Reed in the offseason as well. But what I was going to talk about more on how good the Titans' run game is, on how insane the Colts' defensive line is, that's going to be the next year. Because we now have DeForest Buckner on the D-line. We have
he's big.
Justin Houston as well is coming back, who is our leading sacker and tackles for loss. We also have Darius Leonard, who's an absolute beast. We do have Malik Hooker, which paid a little bit before. The Colts didn't pick up his 5th-year rookie option. I don't really know why, because he played very well for them. And then we also I think we had a very good draft this year as well, with Jonathan Taylor coming in the 2nd round. I think that was a pretty good steal. And him behind Marlon Mack, who I love Marlon Mack. He was hurt a lot last season. And then now we also have Naeem Hines, who's a great wide receiver running back that plays a lot of wide receiver for us. So that works really well. Our offensive line is obviously one of the best in the league, I think, with Quentin Nelson and Anthony running back. I think it's incredible. So I think it all comes down to whether if the Colts can stop the Titans. When the Colts and Titans play each other, I think it's dependent on whether the Colts can stop the Titans' run offense.
Yeah, I feel like you almost missed out on the biggest signing of the season. What do you think about Phillip Rivers?
I was getting there, but I like Phillip Rivers with the 1-year contract, because it's all dependent on how he does this year, right? Like, I hate Jacoby Brissett. He has been the most mediocre quarterback, and okay, the Colts after Andrew Luck got hurt, the Colts were awful. We went like 3 and
13.
3-13 and 4-12 the next season. It was a pretty bad stretch. I don't think Andrew Luck should have retired. Kind of. No, I'm just kidding on that one.
Tell that to
But
Andrew.
I
Yeah,
know.
I was gonna say.
We drafted Jacob Eason, who I think might be our franchise quarterback. And I know a lot of people don't like that, and a lot of people don't like him as a quarterback and think that was a waste of a draft pick. But I think that if he learns behind Philip Rivers, and Philip Rivers and Frank Reich has coached him before, so I think that may be a very good fit. And I feel like Philip Rivers doesn't have to try and carry his team because the Colts have a pretty good defense as well.
Yeah, I liked kind of taking a risk on Eason. But the thing I'll say about the Colts is I like their D-line, but Justin Houston's getting older, and I feel like they don't have enough depth at defensive line to hang with Derrick Henry. Because if you're going to run the ball like 25, 30 times a game and it's like crunch time later in the year, as good as DeForest Buckner is, I don't think they have the depth at defensive line. Because Darius Leonard's a better coverage linebacker than he is a run stopper. But personally, I like their defense. I just don't think it has the depth that a lot of the other teams, specifically like just Super Bowl contending teams, have. They can't rotate defensive linemen like the Niners did, and I think that's going to honestly hurt Forrest Buckner because he didn't have to play as often.
That is true. We also lost Jabal Sheard.
Fresh legs. And so I think that could honestly hurt the Colts because especially towards the end of the year, some of those guys will kind of get banged up, I think. But I like the Colts team. I like that they're going win now. They have an identity. And I don't dislike Philip Rivers, and I don't see Jacob Eason being the guy in the future, but you never know. It's worth taking a risk.
We also have Danico Autry and Tyquan Lewis on the defensive line as well. So we do have a couple good edge rushers there.
I know, but like the Niners last year had like 7 guys that they rotated in and out, and that was just the tackle spot.
We lost Jabal Sheard, who was our leading.
Jabal Sheard was good. But yeah, I think when it comes down to it, once it gets towards the end of the year, the Titans are going to run the ball more, and the Colts aren't going to have fresh legs. And towards the end of the game, it's just the running's going to be too easy for these other teams.
Okay, that's a good argument. But we also have people like Al-Quadin Muhammad, who actually played very well last year, even though no one knows who he is because no one really watches the Colts. But
probably because I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah.
How long you practice that?
Yeah.
Not very long. And Ben Banugu as well. Pretty solid.
They have guys, but that doesn't mean they're like as good at guys that are going to stop Derrick Henry. Like
I know. I agree with
Derrick
that.
Henry is DeForest Buckner. That's the only guy on the D line that can do that. I don't as much as they might have improved it this offseason, I think they needed more depth than just that one big hit.
That is true.
I like DeForest Buckner, but they need depth.
I think our offense improved incredibly from last year over this offseason.
I think the O-line's great, which is awesome, but the Jonathan Taylor pick, I really like Marlon Mack and Naeem Hines, so I could see Jonathan Taylor taking over midway through the year. But they always have kind of done a running back by committee, at least since Joseph Adai left. But I like their running backs, honestly. I think they'll have a great run game. I like the Colts. I don't dislike anything about them. I just don't think that they have the depth at needed positions in this division. They don't have depth at corner, and they don't have depth at D-line. And you're going to get torched by the Texans because they're going to throw the ball over you. And then you're going to get –
because the Texans' offensive line is horrendous.
Yeah, but y'all don't have depth at D-line.
We still have D-line, though. I just don't think we'll get torched by the Texans. I think we'll go 1-1 against both the Texans and the Titans.
I'm saying it's going to be a high-scoring game.
Well, that is true. And I think Philip Rivers –
You can't guard Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks. Corners.
If Philip Rivers protects the ball, I think we'll be very good this year.
That's another thing I will say. The Chargers' offensive line last year was not good. And he had I think he was top 5 in hits. He throws the ball away a lot, so it's not like sack numbers were crazy. But I think in quarterback hits, he was up there. And I think that was another reason that he threw a lot of those picks.
And also, for the Colts season in itself, I think the Colts have a pretty good shot at being either 1 or 2 in the AFC South due to the fact that 6, of our first 7 games, 6 of them had missed the play. 6 of the teams that we played didn't make the playoffs last year. So it's a pretty easy start to the schedule, and then it gets really rough playing the Ravens.
Yeah, Chiefs. I will say the Colts had the same thing last year where they started off hot and kind of fizzled out.
But that's also okay. I will make the argument that Adam Vinatieri is the reason why we lost 3 games in a row last year because he missed 3 game-winning field goals. So if he hadn't have missed that, no,
What? I thought he was still playing.
he's not going to start. He'll probably be behind Rodrigo Blankenship or something.
When you have a backup
I don't know
kicker.
about Rodrigo Blankenship.
No, Rodrigo. He's been in college football for the past 15
I love
years.
Rodrigo. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's going to start.
And we have our kicker Sanchez. I don't know his first name.
Yeah, the punter or whatever.
No, he's our place kicker.
Yeah, but he punts and does the place kicking. Most teams don't have 2 kickers on the roster, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Those guys
Well, I think Blankenship will be learning under Adam Vinatieri, which is weird to say because, they're kickers. But, I mean, I think that that's going to happen. I think Vinatieri will start and Rodrigo will be behind him. And then eventually if either Vinatieri misses a couple or kind of maybe gets hurt, because he was hurt a couple last year, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm. He was for a little bit, I'm pretty sure.
All right. Well, one thing I didn't really think was the biggest pain. You said they were a win now team. And
they at least free agent wise went win now. They went for win now guys. They traded a first round pick as well.
Yeah, but win now means you have to win now. You can't just free agency. We kind of went win now.
Yeah, I feel like
if they were going for win now, they didn't do a very good job, in my opinion. I think the Phillip Rivers signing was good, especially if they drafted Jacob Eason, a veteran to learn behind, which I think is really valuable in the NFL. But other than that, if you really are going for win now, I don't think they did a very good job. Their D-line, like you said, Peyton, doesn't have a lot of depth. My knowledge on their D-line isn't incredible. But the only player I know on that D-line is DeForest Buckner. They have a couple good defensive pieces, but their future's muddled, and they're not good enough to really win now, in my opinion.
It's all dependent on how they do this year. It's all dependent on how they do this year. Like, if Phillip Rivers has the season of his life, he'll come back, and I think the Colts will do pretty well in the next couple of years. But if he doesn't, it's Jacob Eason's turn to flip the switch and turn it back on.
Yeah, but because they did that, now they went for the win now, but they also went for future. They just needed to stick with one thing, I think.
Right, and also our team is very young as well. Like, we have a very, very young team. Like, our backup wide receiver is a rookie at Michael Pittman Jr. And T.Y. Hilton's finally healthy for the first time in, 2 years.
Ever.
The only reason I said win now is because they traded for an established DeForest Buckner, gave up picks as well as a ton of money. And they
I know,
an older quarterback.
I don't think that was a good move in my opinion. If you're gonna do either DeForest Buckner, I like
DeForest Buckner, and he's a great player.
They could have been smarter. But they could have been a lot smarter.
They shouldn't have paid him the most in the NFL.
No, they shouldn't have.
At the defensive tackle, they should have gone for depth instead of one great guy, and at least get some younger guys in the draft, then maybe trade a guy away for picks.
So yeah, you never really know.
And taking Xavier Rhodes, I feel like that's kind of, at least in their minds, a win now thing. I don't think that helps them win at all.
They did a couple things that were just questionable. Xavier Rhodes, DeForest Buckner. Phillip Rivers is a weird situation because he could be a win now, but he could also be a future because he could help out Jacob Eason.
I don't really know who else we would have had except for Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett also isn't – I'm sorry. Jacoby Brissett is a good quarterback. Good, not great. He's not bad. I watched a couple games. He had some great throws. I think he's a good leader. I like Jacoby Brissett. You might not.
RG3.
He needed a run game. He needed a run game to succeed.
He didn't have a lot of help.
He did not have Marlon Mack.
You can't blame 7 and 9 on Jacoby Brissett.
Marlon Mack was healthy at the beginning of the year. They played really, really well. They couldn't keep their running backs healthy, despite their offensive line still doing incredible.
And like you said, Adam Vinatieri lost you 3 games. So I think Jacoby Brissett kept you in it for a lot of the time.
That is true. But he's been our franchise quarterback for a couple of years now. He just has not.
Did the Titans not lose a game because of kicking? I'm pretty sure they missed a field goal at the end of the game.
The Titans lost 3 to kicking.
Yeah, they lost a lot to kicking. This division.
I think we missed the most PATs in the league. I feel like I saw a stat like that.
Oh, we did.
We cycled through 5 kickers. It was bad for a lot of the AFC South. It was bad from a kicking perspective. I mean, Kaimi Fairbairn for the Texans was good. Other than him, I mean,
I don't think you really see Chris Boswell take a lot of field goals in the Jaguars. So
that's true. Doesn't have a lot of action.
yeah. All right. So I guess now we can go ahead and move on to the Jaguars. And so let's I guess kind of nail down what we think on the Colts first. So Patrick, do you think they could win the division or get second?
Well, I think yes. I think we should also go through like their schedule just like a little bit because they have a lot of the similar schedules, obviously, because they're on the same division. But I think it'd be good to like kind of run through them quickly and like say their losses and everything. But
I don't know. I don't see the Colts necessarily being better than the
I don't
Titans.
think they did much to change their position in this division. Really, I don't think they.
Think so.
Really?
I honestly think so because the Colts were pretty strong. Okay, they were a strong team last year, and like I said, we literally lost 3 games due to Cade.
Towards the beginning of the season. I just think that they don't have
Okay,
enough depth. They don't.
But
They
the
didn't
problem
last
is
year this year.
we were plagued by injuries last year. Like
Exactly, you
and,
have no depth. Guys
you know,
can't.
now we got injured in the running back and wide receiver position. We had no offense throughout the entire year. Like T.Y. Hilton got hurt.
Jacoby Brissett still won you games. Just saying.
Yeah.
You hated on him pretty hard.
Okay. Our defense, no. But we lost Marlon Mack. Our starting running back was Naeem Hines. And then we lost T.Y. Hilton. Our starting wide receiver was Paris Campbell. He got hurt. And then it was Darius Fountain. The team is – that is the worst wide receiver.
Zach Pascal wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I don't know. I just think that they don't have enough depth to succeed in this division, especially playing against some of the bigger guys on the Titans. And then, honestly, the Jaguars, like, they're not good, but they're physical. So,
They're horrible.
They're still physical.
They have a couple decent pieces.
Yeah, I really like Josh Allen a lot.
I was about to say
Yeah,
he almost had an identical season to Nick Bosa, and nobody talked about him.
He's so underrated.
All right, so I guess we'll talk about the Jaguars.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the Jaguars. So the Jaguars, do they still have Tom Coughlin? Because if they do, they're never going to get better.
Wait, yeah, they do. They do.
Okay, well then they're never going to get better. But once they lose Tom Coughlin, I like Josh Allen a lot as a guy I talked about, but
they only have 2 guys that are decent.
I'll say the only issue with the Jaguars is people leave this team because of Tom Coughlin and the management. They lost. Well, we'll even go back to last year. They lost Jalen Ramsey. They lost Calais Campbell. Yannick Ngakoue is now saying he won't play. He's requesting a trade on social media right now.
They lost A.J. Bouye.
They lost Bouye, so they have no corner.
And Leonard Fournette has been talking about getting out.
So basically, their 2 strengths, which were defensive line and corner, are now their 2 weaknesses.
And their good running back is now I don't want to play.
Yeah, and this is a team that's in the AFC Championship, and just for it to deteriorate this quickly is kind of insane.
I don't blame them trying to leave that organization.
It's just Tom Coughlin doesn't run it the right way.
They need a front office change for sure.
He's just too old school for a lot of these guys, I think, and he's too I can't even think of the phrase.
Okay, to be fair, I believe that the Jaguars had a very, very good draft.
Oh, draft, yeah, I agree with that.
They had a lot of picks. Yeah, C.J. Henderson, cornerback going in the first round. Caleb Chason, who I think will very much help their defensive and
their linebackers are going to be good. If
Caleb Chason, if y'all watched LSU this year, he was insane. Like, he was crazy good at rushing. He even sacked Trevor Lawrence 2 or 3 times in the national championship. So that's a pretty good.
And they drafted receiver in the 3rd round. I really like that. But they really had an emphasis on corners. They took 3 corners. They took D-line in the 3rd round. They had a lot of draft picks. So this is a really young team. And I like
they've signed 3 running backs in the offseason.
Yeah.
None of them I've ever heard of, though.
Yeah. They're clearly trying to build something.
Mm-hmm. And they also signed Tyler Eifert. They have Tyler Eifert as well. I kind of forgot about that.
The most injury-prone tight end
ever.
I feel bad for Tyler Eifert.
Yeah, I feel like young quarterbacks, though, really rely on tight ends. So this could help. I almost said Mitch Trubisky. This could really help Gardner Minshew. I hope he's not like Mitch Trubisky. Hope he's a little bit better.
No.
Hands out. I don't hate Mitch Trubisky. I actually think he can be decent. I just hope that Gardner Minshew plays well next year.
One player that I think people forget about, DJ Chark had a legit breakout season.
He was good.
Legitimately breakout. He is their number 1 receiver. He is good. I watched a couple of his games, obviously, when they played Titans and stuff. He is a good wide receiver, and he's slept on because he plays for the Jaguars. But him and Marquise Lee, They also have one more that I can't remember his name right now, but
They released Marquise Lee.
oh, they did.
I think so.
Oh,
think
well,
I'm
they
wrong.
have what's his name?
Yeah, they waived him.
God, it's on the tip of my tongue. It'll come to me.
All right. Well, right now we can also just their D line in general, like Calais Campbell, Marcel Darius, Yannick Ngakwe. Those are like three of the best defensive. Okay, Darius used to be one of the best, but he's kind of old. But those three guys used to be like some of the best defensive tackles in the league, and they were all on this team, and they all left in like the span of a year.
D.D. Westbrook. That's
Oh yeah, D.D.
that's what I
Westbrook.
was thinking about.
Yeah. I'm mad that all the LSU players are going to the Jags, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think Leonard Fournette could ball out at the Colts, but
You don't need another running back.
Yeah.
I know.
That's the one place you actually do have depth.
Yeah.
The Jaguars, though, don't see them getting much better until management changes.
I agree
like
with
their
that.
young guys, but they're not going to stay if the management doesn't change.
That's true. I agree with that.
I love Gardner, to be honest. I think he's really good, and I think he's a leader too. But you're right, Peyton. There's not much you can do with a management like that, and the signs are already out there. People leaving left and right. They lost one of the best corners in the league. Like we already talked about it.
Tackles.
It's bad. It's bad.
Another thing I guess is just I think Gardner Minshew is the perfect quarterback for a team with bad management, just because he's so like, I'm going to deal with whatever situation I'm in and try and do the best I can.
He's not a fussy
not going to complain. So I do think if any quarterback was built to kind of help the situation in Jacksonville, it'd be Gardner Minshew.
He's also a fan favorite as well.
Yeah, the question is he talented enough to lead like them on the field? We know he's a great leader, like of the team, like maybe off the field, but on the field, is he going to be able to play well enough to lead them to wins? And
we haven't seen enough of him yet, honestly.
I don't think with the stuff he has around him he can, but I feel like if he gets an all right team, he has a potential too.
He played well with not a lot, so
yeah,
I do think
he played very well. He beat the Titans, didn't he, last year? Or was that the Titans? He did.
No, they beat the Titans once.
I think that was his first game, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. I think it was.
They definitely hold up Jaguar.
Maybe he beat someone on his first game. Can't remember.
I don't think that they beat the Titans first game. They might have beaten him at some point in the season.
Well, Gardner Minshew didn't start last year, at the first game.
Well, just the first game is the only one he didn't start, right? It was either 1 week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, the Jags beat the Titans. I can't tell.
I remember that. Yeah.
The third game of the season.
Yeah, that was his. I think that was his
second game.
It was his first home game, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I can't remember.
You're probably right.
They lost 7-20. Yeah. That's when Marcus was still the quarterback.
That was Marcus Mariota. I was like, there's no way that the Titans will lose to the Jaguars. Derrick Henry always goes off, and then Marcus Mariota scores.
Wow, the only freaking game that Adam Humphries had any sort of a respectable stat line.
Adam Humphries was a bad signing, but
he was a bad, especially for the money.
I still like Corey Davis, and AJ Brown, but I think this division. I mean, do we want to pick a favorite, Patrick?
I mean, Titans for me.
It's hard. I want to choose the Titans, but I gotta go Titans. Like they just have the best roster, and they have.
I have more knowledge about the Titans than most teams, but everything's going good for them right now.
They just
John Robinson too, such a good GM. And if this is kind of a small thing, but Jonnu Smith towards the end of the year, replacing Delaney Walker, he was really good. He was athletic, he did everything you want him to do, and I was impressed.
Yeah, I think the Titans have a great future. But
I think the Colts are. The only word I can think of is muddled. I just don't know what to think about their future or their win now. It's just kind of we'll see what happens after the season. Obviously,
I think they clearly want to win now, but I don't know if the team's built well enough to win now.
I don't think that. Yeah, you're right. They just didn't get the pieces that they needed to win now. They're not really a threat. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad thing, because they're a decent team. Don't get me wrong. But if you want to win now, you're supposed to be a threat, and they really are not a threat. So
they could win the division, but they're not going to be Super Bowl contenders.
They could win the division. That's the Titans always 9-7, wild card.
That's what. So That's what I was thinking. It's either going to be the Colts or the Titans. I do not think that the Texans or the Jaguars will win the division. I just think
You know,
the Texans.
Deshaun Watson finds a way to win. That's
Deshaun
why
is a
still
god.
Yes, he
I'm still
does.
worried about the Texans.
But yes, that I was worried about that as well. But I think if they get off to the start that I think that they will get off to, I think it'll be very hard for them to recover because they have a very, very hard opening schedule. Their first game's at the Chiefs
too. I think I don't think it's how you start, it's how you finish.
That is true.
It's
But
all
it's
the
really
same
good.
schedule at the end of the day. So even if you start bad,
Outside of a couple games. But yeah, I think that's gonna be it for the pod. So Patrick's got the Colts, and we both have
we got the
Titans.
tits.
Yeah.
And also, but I think that both the Colts and the Titans will make the playoffs, like no matter what. I think one of them will be a wild card,
Yeah,
and especially with the 7
the Colts.
team.
See, I think Texans could be the wild card.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's weird. They have a very muddled. If Phillip Rivers can play like old Phillip Rivers did, I think that they have a good chance because I do like Phillip Rivers. But we'll just have to see because nobody knows what he can do with that O-line. Like that O-line can change any quarterback, to be honest. Like,
Right.
so
And running back too. I'm interested to see how Jonathan
True.
Taylor does. But I think those 3 teams honestly are
Because
competing for a playoff spot. The Jaguars are just out of it already.
Mhm.
They might win one game against these 3 teams combined.
I think that the AFC has a very strong top 3, but then after that, it's all up for grabs. It can literally be 3 teams from the same division that would make it, with 2 teams being a wild card. It's all up for grabs, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to be it for this episode of the AP podcast. Pretty sure it's 28. So, yeah.
It is. You're correct.
Yep.
Episode
Thanks for
28.
listening, and we'll catch you next time.